Welcome to the Glazier Nation podcast, where we uncover the best stories and the best practices of the glass and glazing industry. Whether you're a seasoned vet or just starting out your journey, this show's a great place for entertainment and a deeper understanding of our industry. I'm your host, John Spellman, and I'm truly honored to take you beyond the glass. Welcome back to the Glazier Nation podcast, episode 38. My guest this week is David Corle. David is a director with HMI Glass, overseeing the National Hospitality Division. And I'll be honest, if somebody just told me that title off the cuff, I'd probably ask what it is too. David does a better job explaining that in this podcast, but to summarize it a little bit for the preview, sales, marketing, education of shower doors in the hospitality division. David and I talked about common mistakes or pitfalls with shower doors by architects and designers. We talked about challenges he's faced in his career. And of course, with just about every second or third generationer I have on the show, we talked about how he tried to leave the industry. I had a blast chatting with David. Hope you enjoy the show. The Glazier Nation podcast is sponsored by Glazier Nation. You can check out all their offerings at glaziernation.com. If you're interested in sponsoring the podcast or other marketing opportunities, go to glaziernation.com/marketing. And if you have questions for me or you know someone that would make a great guest for the show, you can contact us on any of our social medias at Glazier Nation Podcast. Do you take the whole crew when you travel?
The whole crew. I mean, we're currently in Northern California, headed up to Washington and Oregon and Washington rather, and then across the country. So yeah, I got the whole crew with me, and I don't know if you can tell, but I'm recording in an RV. So
well, now that you told me, I can kind of get it, but I may not have guessed it before. So like, you're doing like sales calls and consultations along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't do so much calling on customers anymore. In my current role, I'm more of a architectural, I'm working with architects and designers more than I am with end users and customers typically.
I got you.
So, yeah.
I got you. So more architectural promotion, education.
Exactly.
I want to ask you more about that, but real quick, because I've thought about this lifestyle before. How does this work? Because you can't just be in an RV. So you're towing the RV and then you drop it somewhere and then you go make these calls?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll work in a variety of different locations, whether it's in the RV, if my wife and the kids are out seeing the sites or taking a field trip of some sort. I can work in the RV. If not, I'll work either in a coffee shop or I've worked in my truck before. It just depends. We're pretty flexible, and I'm pretty flexible with my schedule and the work that I do. So it's worked out very well for us.
Do you tow an additional vehicle so that you can go work and that your family can go sightsee, or is it one or the other?
It's a travel trailer. So we're towing a travel trailer with our truck. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you can drop the trailer, take the truck somewhere.
Yeah. But this isn't our full-time life. Where we're at right now, taking a trip, but typically we would be in a static location, but
I got you. Sorry to pry so much. That's something that I've thought about as outside sales of some sort of possibility, because and this is probably the missing piece of the puzzle that people don't understand is you and I both homeschool our children, or as you pointed out, our wives homeschool our children. But
yeah,
part of that lifestyle is the flexibility that would enable you to do that. I did want to ask you, what do y'all do for summer? Do you continue to school? Are the kids off?
So we it really depends. Sometimes we go all the way through the summer. Sometimes we take a summer break. It kind of depends on how the year has gone, what we've gotten done throughout the year, what our schedule allows for. That is one of the big benefits of homeschooling, is that you can go through the summer. And, for any kids that might listen to your podcast, which I'm sure there's probably not too many. They're probably
my children tell me to turn it off because it's boring if I ever put it on.
I get it. But the benefit that they may not see right now is that they may end up graduating earlier and starting college earlier, and then graduating college earlier. So there's definite benefits in that way to going all the way through the year. Currently, we're taking a break right now. a big part of this trip that we're on is to just give them education through experience, right? We're going to be hitting several national parks along the way and things like that, which are just incredibly educational experiences in and of themselves. So,
yeah, that's awesome. We do, first of all, your comment about graduating early. We have I guess it's a family friend. It's a baseball mom of a kid I've coached for years, and she was homeschooled. She graduated early. I think she got a nursing degree. Whatever she does, she got early. And I mean, she was full-time, gainfully employed with a degree or certification of some sort by the age of 18. So,
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And then we do, at least my wife, I do like the PE, right? Like I coach the baseball team.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that there'll be some stuff that I'll have to teach later on, like, I don't know, maybe finances or some different levels of math. As great as my wife is at the homeschooling, I'm a little concerned about some of the math, but because that was probably my strongest subject as a kid. Anyways, I'm rambling. We do 6 weeks of school, 1 week off, 6 weeks on, 1 week off. So they can kind of be motivated to that week off, because even though they're homeschool, they still don't want to do school. They still say, school.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys do the fireman schedule then, huh?
I guess that is. That's.
I just made that up right now. I don't think that's a thing, but
no, that's. I mean, I get it, because we've got a lot of friends who are firefighters here, and they work 24 hours on, 48 hours off. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey,
I think it's cool.
Going back to you doing the architectural promotion, the education of the architects. I know this is a big part of your role with HMI. Real quick, not like resume reading, just give me like a 30-second pitch of what your role with HMI is, just to help explain it.
Yeah, sure. So I started with HMI as an outside sales rep in New England. Did that for about 5-6 years. Moved on to East Regional Sales Manager, managing 6 or 7 sales reps. Then moved on to pretty much the current role that I'm in now, which is, like you said, educating the A&D community on shower enclosures, on HMI specifically, working to get our products specified on primarily multifamily and hospitality type work. We do student housing, retirement as well, but multifamily and hospitality is the biggest part of what my department handles. So, I mean, you said it. I'm educating A&D. I'm, trying to correct mistakes that I see along the way, or at least educate on mistakes that I see along the way, and help to prevent those things from happening in the future. And it's crazy, John. There's so many things that are just typical that almost every architect does from what I see.
I want to open that box. Let me interject real quick, just to help explain to listeners that maybe don't know. We've got what you do with HMI, and I mean, I think you made it clear that it has to do with shower doors. Is that their sole business, is shower doors? Yeah.
So that our bread and butter, 90% of our business is shower doors. And of shower doors, there's obviously different ranges, different grades. There's frame, semi-frameless, fully frameless. And then there's standard and custom. So, I mean, the bulk of what we do is custom frameless heavy glass. So, but, that being said, we also have the ability to do, decorative glass for feature walls, for, restaurant dividers, things like that. We have the ability to do custom cast glass in-house. We have an in-house artisan that creates custom molds for our cast glass patterns, with the addition of digital printing. So we also have the capability to digitally print on glass with a ceramic frit printer.
So back to the education and maybe the common mistakes or common, I don't even know if you'd call them mistakes, right? Like I always, as a glazing contractor, I think I was guilty, and I see it now with glazing contractors, like the architect's an idiot, the architect doesn't know anything, but like that's not true. And anyone that like takes a second to think about that, that's not true. They've got 44 spec divisions, I've lost count, that they need to at least be proficient in Now, do they need to know the ins and outs of a storefront jam detail or a heavy shower design? You know, it would help, but that's not what they're for, because then you and I wouldn't have jobs, right? So
Right.
maybe not mistakes, but what are the common pitfalls that you see designers doing with shower doors?
Yeah. So, I mean, some of the things I see from a specification side of things, it's just common, is, specifying things like self-closing hinges on shower doors, gravity hinges. We've all seen the saloon, barn doors that you open it up and it swings shut. That's because it's on a gravity hinge. There's not, to my knowledge, a gravity hinge for shower doors. Now, what there is self-centering hinges, and it's mostly a terminology pitfall. But from time to time, glazing contractors will get on a rabbit trail of searching for somebody that makes these self-closing hinges that the architect called out.
Right.
And it's my job to say, okay, I know what they're talking about. It's our job to interpret and read between the lines. It's not a self-closing hinge, but it is a self-centering hinge within 15 degrees, right? Self-cleaning glass, there are products I know on the architectural side of things that are billed or advertised as self-cleaning. There is not the same thing for shower enclosures. So there is easy clean coatings, whether it's our C10 glass coating or Shower Guard by Guardian. There's a number of different coatings that are offered by manufacturers that make the glass easier to clean, protect it from hard water and things like that. But self-cleaning glass, it just isn't a thing.
What are they? And I'm a little ignorant on some of this stuff, right? Like, I used to do the glazing contractor full package, but it was all primarily exterior. Do some shower doors here and there, but now for the last decade, I've been just aluminum framing. So know enough about glass, know a little bit about showers. I don't know what the question I guess I'm trying to get at is, what are they advertising when they say self-cleaning glass? That the glass cleans itself?
Yeah, so it's basically that, and I'm gonna totally botch the technological terms for it, but
that's fine. We approve that here.
Through a photocatalytic, hydrophobic, some action of the sun hitting the glass. When it rains, the water hitting the glass, it self cleans itself. Now, again, I'm not disparaging those coatings for exterior architectural glass. I just don't have any experience with them. But I think that's where, that kind of terminology has gotten copy pasted from the exterior glazing world into the shower enclosure world. Yeah. And like I said, to this point, there's not anybody making a self-cleaning glass for shower enclosures, unfortunately.
So how do you, what's your strategy of correcting that with the architect or designer? How do you educate?
Yeah, so a lot of times it opens up an opportunity to create a relationship with an architect that maybe we weren't already working with. So I'll reach out to the architecture firm, try to get a hold of the job captain or architect, the project architect that's working on that particular project, and just either try to set up a call with them just to help educate. My goal, and I think the goal for anybody in a role like mine, should never be to sell to the architect. That is a huge pitfall in any building product manufacturing space, is that we don't sell to architects. We just don't do it. Architects don't buy products, they specify products. It is our job to educate and to help them. So that's what my aim is to do, is just to reach out, say, hey, I'd love to set up an educational session with the team, see if we can help clean up some of this terminology. Another big part of what I've done with HMI, though, is in writing our guide specs for our products, really carefully going through there to make sure that they are called out in the correct way. So, now our specifications are listed on Master Spec and BSD Spec Link, or I forget what it's called now, RIB, I believe. Anyway, and they're out there in the correct way, which is, something that I'm very passionate about doing, is just correcting these common things that we all see.
No, and I think Andrew Herring was probably the one that said it the clearest
Who's
and
Andrew
loudest. The
Herring?
oh
That's a dig at
the
you, Andrew.
yeah, he's maybe lost some popularity, but no, he's still out there. Andrew was a guest maybe twice on this show. I know he was when I started my little glazing guru, and then when I did Glazier Nation, he came on. I know that. Anyways, love Andrew. Shout out to Andrew. But he said it best that we all have to eat, right? So
Yep.
if you're not selling any product, you're not really doing your job, and it's going to be hard to provide, right? But
Absolutely.
But I've always maintained that, agree 100% with you, is that the manufacturer representative or architectural representative, whatever title you have, right? Selling through education. Because if you, at least in my opinion, if I ever have a sales rep that comes in and they're trying to sell, right? Like that's maybe that's my generation. That's a huge turnoff. I'm out.
Absolutely.
And if they're trying to, downsell the competition, negative sell, like I'm out. It's
yeah. I've heard from too many architects, and we've probably all experienced this, right? You go into Home Depot and you're looking for screws, and all of a sudden somebody sidles up next to you and, hey, have you considered solar for your home? I'm like, that's not what I'm here for, man. Like,
yeah.
I'll come to you if I'm interested in that. But I mean, I think too often that's the same thing happens with architects is, they're going about their day, they're working on multiple projects. Next thing you know, a sales rep is knocking on their door trying to slide a brochure into their hand or whatever. And it's just like, that's not what I was doing. That's not what I'm working on right now. So I think it's something that we can all get better at.
I think it's kind of a dying breed too. Like
it is.
I can't see that. So that salesperson is going to have a place somewhere. Maybe it's selling solar as I'm trying to leave the store. Maybe it's selling. No, it's not even selling vehicles, man, because that's gone too. The last vehicle I bought was on Carvana, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful exchange.
Yeah, for sure.
They got a place, but yeah, education. All of my best relationships I've created with architects is where I've solved a problem. Same with glazing contractors, where I've solved a problem, where I've helped them make money, where I've saved them time. That hard sell stuff doesn't work.
Exactly. I think the thing that I'm always, trying to get across to the A&D world too is just, let me be a part of your team, an unpaid member of your team.
Yeah.
Reach out to me for just a second set of eyes. Like, hey, even if you didn't specify my product, my goal is to, like you said, educate or sell through education. But at the end of the day, if we can raise the entire industry, I think it's going to be beneficial for everybody. So, let me be that unpaid member of your team to help you make more money. I mean, I read a stat at one point. Of course, I'm not going to get it right now, but every RFI costs, I forget how many thousands of dollars to an architecture firm. But if we can avoid those RFIs, before they even start, by getting it right from the outset, that's what I want to do. And there's other things that are not pitfalls, but I think are just things that architects do either just to try to over engineer or whatever. But we often see 3 or 4 shower door hinges where there doesn't need to be 3 or 4 hinges, and in fact might cause an issue. Or hinging glass to glass when it's not necessary. You could hinge it to the wall and be more effective and sturdier in the long term. But just things like that, I think. And sorry if I rabbit trailed a little bit more there.
Nope. We approve of incorrect stats and unfinished quotes and rabbit trails.
I'm full of them.
You, David, like myself, like many other guests on the Glazier Nation podcast, are you a second generation or a third generation?
I'm third generation.
Third generation. Okay. Similar to almost every single person that is a second or third generation, you tried to leave the industry at some point, and your your target activity was photography. Now, do you still practice? Do you still? I mean, we all take pictures, but I mean, do you do the editing and do you do it as a photographer?
I don't anymore. Much to my chagrin, sometimes I really enjoy photography. I enjoy it to this day. Funny though, that I found that with photography, and this is a rabbit trail, but I found that with photography, really anything creative, I can be more creative when I'm not getting paid for it. So I started photography because I loved taking pictures. I loved taking portraits of people specifically. And I could be very creative with it. And then I started charging for my work, and it's like just a creativity killer for me. So, which is really weird. I don't know if other people experience the same thing, but yeah, no, I did try to exit the industry. Tried to follow
how do you, David, I want to bookmark that. How did you, was that like, as you were being paid for it, that the client was telling you what to do and removing the creativity?
Not so much. I mean, people hired me because they liked the look of my work.
Right.
It's just that once I was being paid to do it, it's like the pressure increased, and not saying I can't handle pressure, but it's just, I did wedding photography for a while with my wife, and if there were a high pressure environment, that's definitely it.
Sure.
But, it's just that for some reason, when you're getting paid to do something that is more of a creative endeavor, and maybe it's just that I didn't get to the point where I could say, hey, you're hiring me because you like my work. I'm going to do, you're hiring me for my eye, and for my style. So I'm going to do what feels natural to me. Maybe I just didn't get to that point. But I did really enjoy it while I was doing it. I was doing mostly corporate headshots, and loving it. So, but this opportunity, I actually left the photography business to take the job with HMI, which at the time was Cardinal Shower Enclosures. We've since rebranded as HMI Glass. But yeah, so it was. I didn't leave because I couldn't hack it or couldn't continue to be creative. It was more just wow, here's a great opportunity, and it happens to be back in the glass business again.
Sure.
So,
no, just kind of interesting. Like, I do not so much photography, but like I do this podcast and I do some other videography stuff on the side, and that's just kind of an interesting take. Like, you do something of a certain style or a certain way, and then I can almost like picture you at the wedding, right? And you've got a bridesmaid or the bride's mom telling you kind of what she wants, and I could see the pressure and how that's no longer fun.
Yeah. I think I didn't experience too much of that in the wedding photography side of things. Typically it was, there I feel like people were hiring us because of the style they had already seen, and they liked it and trusted us. I think where I wanted to get to was doing a lot more creative portraits and things like that, and I wanted to parlay that corporate headshot business into more creative portrait photography, but I didn't get there. It was, I think I left or attempted to leave the glass industry because it wasn't my passion. My grandfather started Charlottesville Glass and Mirror in the 1950s. It was his passion, right? My dad worked there. All of my uncles worked there. And as it goes down generations, I think, we can lose the passion for, the original, whoever the founder was in our family, that they had. But I think we come back to it because we realize that it provided for us in a way that maybe our other venture didn't or couldn't, or something like that. Or we realize that IT is mind-numbingly boring, and we get a little ego boost from seeing the little small part that we had in building America. We drive by a building and be like, hey, Dad did that. I had a part in that, or whatever. So I'm not sure why all it is that we return, but we do.
For me, it was seeing other avenues in the industry, right? Like, when I worked with my dad, like all I knew was like get storefront material, fab storefront material, put storefront material in whole, try to get paid. Like that was it. And I don't really fault my father for not showing me the different things. You know, he was busy, he was doing his own. I also could have shown initiative and said, hey, I want to learn about the profit. I want to learn about the costing. I want to learn about the pay. Or like I could have asked to see more too.
Sure.
But when him and I closed the business and went out and got jobs, I got a job with Metro Glass in Denver and just saw so much more of the industry. You know, I started talking with more reps. I started meeting with more GCs. I saw more of like profit tracking, and it just became much more interesting that there was all this different stuff besides build storefront, put storefront in whole.
Right. Yeah. I think I always, you know, from working, so I started, you know, probably 14, 15 years old.
Yeah. Same.
Off the record, you know, work permit type stuff, working on projects, and worked all the way up until, really 2015, 2014, somewhere in there in the field. So I was doing very similar to you. I was fabbing storefront, I was running projects, I was estimating, and I always sensed that there was a bit of a ceiling in that side of the business for me. You know, I went up to estimator and I didn't see where I could go beyond that. I really wasn't interested in starting my own glass company, you know, and so when the opportunity came along to jump from, you know, the install side of the business over to the sales side of the business, that was interesting to me, and it remains interesting to me to this day.
So your current role, we'll call it sales, but I'm sure you actually have a title that is not sales. Don't say it. Don't say it. The hospitality and multifamily division leader. Okay. Overseeing education, relations. Yeah, you don't have the word sales in here, which is probably correct. That's probably by design, and that's probably correct.
Yeah. And my official title is Director of National Hospitality Division, but it's you know, it is, I think everybody in a company is in sales in some fashion, whether they realize it or not.
Yeah, for sure. Your current role, what's the biggest challenge you've faced, either personally or as a company?
Yeah. That's tough. Well, I think, you know, one of my mentors told me that my job would be to sell internally as much as I sell externally. And, you know, I'm still wrapping my mind around that, but I'm starting to understand that better. The longer I go along, you know, I may have a vision for how I can expand my division of the company, but if that vision isn't shared by senior leadership or other teammates within the company, you know, it's not going to go very far. You know, we can go, I forget what the saying is, you can go fast alone or you can go slow together, something like that. And that doesn't apply perfectly here, but I think, you know, having the support of your company requires some internal selling, right, to get to where you want to go.
Sure.
And so that's something that has been not a struggle, but it's been something I've had to learn and continuing to learn how to do that well. I think, you know, another challenge I think is follow-up, which it's like sales 101, right? I think it's the secret sauce to selling and increasing sales, but getting, you know, whether it's myself, my team, our larger sales team on board with that. And I take full responsibility for this because, you know, as a leader of my division, it's something that I need to learn how to do better. How to show the importance of following up is something that I think we do pretty well right now, but we could do a lot better.
Yeah.
And I fully believe it is the secret sauce and excelling in sales, because I think, you know, here's another figure that's not pulled from anywhere specific, but I think probably 50% plus of companies are not following up or are not following up effectively.
That last word was very important, effectively, right?
Yeah.
You know, hey, just checking in. We talked about the sales, the hard sell, the negative selling kind of being turnoffs, the just checking in. That's something I've tried to I'm guilty of sending a just checking in, right?
Me too.
But I've tried to change that language fairly recently,
So
because I realized
what's something
I,
you're
I,
using instead?
well, I realized when someone did it to me that it was not effective.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of just checking in, it's got to be like a more specific for me. So if I'm following up on a project, I'm not just checking in, hey David, what happened with that? What happened with that Buena Vista project? Is that still something you're pursuing? Like just the tone of that of, hey David, just checking in on Buena Vista. Like to me,
Yeah.
I don't know.
You're not that committed. You're just kind of like checking a box, right?
I I get caught up on little language stuff like that sometimes, and I just try to like train my brain to no longer do it. And that's one that I've hit is just checking in.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that.
I've got my wife and I are I don't know what our level of commitment is here. I mean it wavers. Sometimes we're like ready to go. Sometimes I'm like I don't know, but we're looking at trying to get an investment property, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've got this family. They're another baseball family, right? They're great people, but like I feel bad because they've showed me a bunch of properties, and we haven't made a commitment to anything yet. And she's sent me a couple just checking ins, and I'm like, I know you mean well, but we got to change the language.
Yeah, no, I see the same thing. Obviously there's a million companies out there wanting to sell their services to me or to my division or whatever, and I get the same thing. They do a demo for you, and then you get about 10 or 20 just checking in emails, and it's just like, once you've seen one, you've seen all of them. They feel very formulaic,
If you've spent 5 minutes using any AI tool and you still send just checking in emails, you need to identify that you're going to be replaced.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You gotta come with something a little heavier than just checking in.
That's for sure.
What we've already alluded to my ignorance of shower doors and to a lesser level glass in itself. Even though I'm the host of the Glazier Nation podcast, what hot trends are coming, either just generally in glass or specifically in shower doors?
Yeah. So I mean, my finger is on the shower door industry more than it is on the greater glass industry.
Sure.
I have a glass nerd hat, primarily because I threatened Andrew. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't really do that. No, but I love glass. It runs in my veins. But my focus obviously is more on what's happening in the shower door industry. So I think what I see is bigger with less framing. I think that's
Sure.
We continue to see, especially in Florida where you're at, is the size panels that are going into showers are just massive. I think a lot of the showers that we're doing are bigger than my first bedroom, or definitely bigger than some bedrooms I've had. So that's definitely something.
I mean, listen, I want, if I have a choice, if money is not an object, I want the biggest and baddest, right? But
Absolutely.
like, I'm curious if you have a take on why that's surging, or why it's bigger, or why specifically in Florida.
I don't know why specifically in Florida, other than, it tends to be a vacation luxury destination kind of place where there's big, expensive homes. I mean, there's plenty of areas around the country where that's the case, but, I've seen a lot of that in Florida. And like I said, I don't really know why. I mean, I think the reason showers are getting bigger, shower enclosures are getting bigger, it's somewhat of a flex, right?
Yeah.
It's getting exposure with social media and stuff like that. It's real easy to show off your bathroom and things like that. And
Sure. No, I mean, listen, like I said, if money was not an object, if space was not an object, big old bathroom, big shower, lots of clean, big glass. I've got a hypothetical guess here. of why specifically Florida maybe is, I don't know if it's still the continuing trend, but I know there was 2 years in a row where Florida led the United States in influx of people, of new residents, and I think that had a lot to do with the boomers retiring and some other stuff going on around the country. But a lot of them sold homes in, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey for $700,000, $800,000, $900,000, and then they came down here and they bought a house for $400,000 and had a bunch of money left.
Yeah.
So that's
so
based on absolutely nothing. But
no, I mean, I think during COVID, immediately following COVID, I mean, we fared, I hate to say it, but we fared very well through that time because of the increase in home remodeling. And, I think that's absolutely true. I mean, that during COVID and after, the great reshuffle saw a ton of people move to Florida.
Yeah.
And those numbers
Tennessee too, Texas, Arizona.
Yeah, absolutely. Those numbers you just threw out for houses, though, make me incredibly jealous as someone who is on the central coast of California.
Buying a house in Florida for $400,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, so now $400,000 doesn't get you a ton. The housing thing is I'm not a smart enough person, but like what I paid for the house that I'm in right now and what it's worth now, like 5 years apart, is my brain can't comprehend that. But I'm sure California prices are insane. Now, $400,000 in Florida still gets you a home. Like you're still going to get a home, but not what you could have 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah, if you put the filter on 400,000 on the area that we're in, I mean, there might be one, but it's probably a double wide. It's probably on a postage stamp lot. I mean, it's pretty insane.
Yeah, like I said, with us looking at a potential investment property, it's just like we've seen properties that I'm like, yeah, this would be awesome, but I'm like, I can't wrap my brain around the cost of it. Like it just doesn't. But I know what's going to happen is every other property I've ever looked at in my life, or I've owned, or I've rented, I'm going to look back, and if I don't buy it, I'm going to go, oh, I should have bought that.
Right. Right. Exactly. I think some of the other things that we see increasing though as far as trends, at least there's whispering of it, is more laminated glass in showers, which I'm still not quite sure why that is. I don't quite understand that unless it's just a safety thing, containing glass if it did break. You can do obviously decorative inner layers on glass, but with the ability to digitally print on glass with ceramic frit, that was my other thing that I was going to say we see increasing is more adoption of digital printing on glass. I mean, the capability of these printers is just mind-boggling, from photorealistic stuff to replacing materials. So you can do a shower that looks like a slab of Carrara marble if you want, or a zebra wood or some exotic material, or just create a very simple privacy fade or something like that. So there's definitely increasing adoption of that technology, which is really cool to see.
I don't know if this actually works or not. Again, this is my ignorance, but can you do like switch glass, or is that like we don't want to combine any kind of electric with the water?
We looked into that a number of years ago, and I think you always run up against, I'm sure somebody's going to figure out how to do it. We had a very good prototype of it, but I think you always run up against that mixing water and electricity. It just still seems a little bit unsafe. Like I said, I'm sure there are situations if the shower's big enough, the glass hardly gets wet at all anyway. There's situations where it could work. I don't see that the market would support very much of that. It'd be pretty cost prohibitive, I think, but surely there's some people out there that would want it and would pay what it takes to get it.
Sure, absolutely. What's the plan? You're in Northern California now, and then where are you headed?
Yeah, so headed up through Oregon, through Washington, down to Yellowstone through South Dakota and then out to New England, and then down to Virginia probably and back. So we'll be gone for quite a while.
Oh, that's right. You're from Virginia, but you have no Virginia accent at all.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was born and raised in Virginia. Was there until 2015.
How old are the kids?
My kids are 12, 10, almost 7, and 5.
Okay, so they love this.
2 oldest are girls, 2 youngest are boys. Yeah.
Yeah, they love this RV life. How long will y'all be on the road?
On the road for, well, overall, almost 5 months.
Yeah.
But we have a trip overseas planned, a vacation overseas planned in their interim. So that's including that. But
okay.
Yeah, it's not a vacation for me. I'm working. The family is. They can play.
Yeah. You're working, but people listening are going to be like, well, he's working, but he's traveling. And I've seen a lot of funny videos of like, the caption is like, oh, you get to travel for work. And then it's like, yeah. And they show the view out of like a Motel 6 in like Des Moines, Iowa of like the highway.
That's so where true. There's always those memes that say like, what my mom thinks I do.
Right.
What my friends think I do, what I actually do or whatever. And that really couldn't be more true. I mean, I do a lot of traveling for work, and a lot of the things that we'll do is these, one-on-one, call them speed dating type events where you have an opportunity to meet with 20 different designers in a day and have these 15-minute, meetings with them. And they're always in some beautiful location, exotic location, whatever. And people are always like, man, it must be nice. You get to go to these places. Right. And it's like, what you don't realize is I fly in, I'm transferred to the resort. I spend 3 days with 8 to 5 meetings inside the resort.
Right.
And then you leave. There's almost zero time to even see where you are. So it's kind of funny the way
if the family gets to go, they get to enjoy it though.
Yeah, I haven't done anywhere I was able to take my family, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we just had a national sales meeting. I guess it's 2 months ago now. And I was thinking like how cool it would be if they could have come and just like hung out at the resort while I sat in a conference room and looked at PowerPoints all day. But
yeah, true.
That was not the case. David, appreciate your time, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Likewise, man. Thanks for having me.